Hello, hello, my dear students. I hope you are doing well and taking care of yourself. Today, I want to explain for you a new chapter, which is chapter 12, about the elements and the compounds and the mixture. The first section of this chapter is about the elements. Let us we start with what's the meaning of elements. An element is a pure substance that cannot be separated into a simpler substance by physical or chemical means. By what? By physical or chemical means. Please, when I highlight something in this video, highlight it on your book because inshallah, I will bring it in the exam. And in this section, you will learn about the elements and the properties that help you to classify them. In this figure number 1, show that the elements cannot be impossible to separate the elements that we use it in the lab for the experiments into a simpler substance whatever the change is physical or chemical change. Let us we know what is the meaning of element. Element, a substance that cannot be separated or broken down into a simpler substance by chemical or physical means. Elements are a pure substance. A pure substance is a substance in which there is only one type of a particle, so each element contains only one type of particle. These particles called atoms. Atoms. The atoms are much too small for us to see. Because an atom is the smallest particle of an element that retains elements properties. Atoms are the building blocks of the universe, including ourselves. And the people that thought that atoms, that smallest possible things of matter, but also the smallest things that made the atoms, which they call it in the inner core of the atoms, we have nucleus. We have atoms like this, and in the inner core of the atom here, we have what? We have nucleus. Nucleus. And we have another things that they call it the proton and neutron. Proton, we have proton. And we have what? Neutron. This proton is positive charge, and we have electron that surround the atom. They are circulate and call it electron that have the negative charge. Okay. Okay. And these atoms are much too small for us to see. For example, we have every atom in a 5 gram of nugget of the element gold is like every other atom of gold. The particles of a pure substance, the particles of a pure substance are alike no matter where they are found. Okay? And let us we know what is the meaning of what are the explain why an element is a pure substance. Pure substance, a sample of a matter, either a single element or a single compound that has defined chemical and physical properties. So explain why elements are is a pure substance. Student, you must write with me. Elements are pure substance. A pure substance is a substance in which there is only one type of particle. So each particles contain only one type of particles. Each element contain only one type of particles. These particles called atom. Because of that, any element is a pure substance. And we have what? We have another things. What is the properties of elements? Each element can be identified by its unique set of properties. For example, each element has its own characteristics properties. These properties do not depend on the amount of the element present. Characteristics property include some physical properties such as what? Such as, such as number one, boiling point, number two, melting point, and density. And we have chemical properties such as what? Such as reactivity. With reactivity of the elements with the some acid are also characteristic properties. Okay. And we have what? An element may share a property with another element. But other properties can help you tell the elements apart. For example, we have what? We have elements of helium and a krypton are both unreactive. Both of them, they are gas but unreactive. However, the densities of these two elements, they are different. Mass per unit volume of these elements are different. Helium is less dense than air, okay? Maybe I will bring this one in the exam for you. I will change the helium to the another element and I want to show I want to bring it in the exam. I will change these things in the multiple choice true or false, okay? But keep focus on it, okay students? When I highlight something in the red color, please focus on it and highlight it in your book also, okay? A helium-filled balloon will float up if it is released, but krypton is denser than air. A krypton-filled balloon will sink to the ground if it is released, okay? We have another things that we said was identifying elements by their properties. Look at the elements shown in the figure number 3. These three elements have some similar properties, but each element can be identified by its unique set of properties. And that these elements, they have physical properties shown in figure number 1, including melting point and density. Other physical properties such as color and hardness and texture, also they are important to know the color, hardness and texture could be added to the list. And the chemical properties might also be useful for the elements to know them, to know their properties. For example, some elements such as hydrogen and carbon are flammable. Other elements such as sodium react with oxygen at room temperature. Still other elements include zinc are reactive with what? With acids. And we have what? Cobalt, iron and nickel, okay? What? Cobalt, iron and nickel. If I bring it for you in the exam, what is the unique properties of the elements? You should to know and memorize these things, okay? These things, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. For all of them, okay students? Please keep focus on these points because it's very important. And elements are classified into three types: metal, non-metal, and metalloids. And this is metals, non-metals, and metalloids. Okay. And we have what? We have categories of elements. Elements are also grouped into categories by the properties they share. There are three major categories of elements: metal, what? Metal, non-metal, and metalloids. Three major categories of elements. As shown in figure number 4, the elements iron, nickel, and cobalt are all metals. Not all metals are exactly alike, but they do have some properties in common. They have some properties. Okay, first we have what? We have metals are shiny and they conduct heat, energy, and electric current. Please memorize these things, it's very important. Okay, metal are shiny and they conduct heat, energy, and electric current. And we have non-metals make up the second category of elements. Make up the second category of elements. They do not conduct heat or electric current, and solid nonmetals are dull in the appearance. Okay? And we have what? The last one, metalloids, which have a properties of both metal and nonmetal. They have the properties of both these non-metalloids of both metal and non-metal. Properties of both of them, called metalloids, make up the last category. Okay, and we have what? We have categories are similar. So in the figure number 5 shows examples of each category and describes the properties that identify elements in each category. Okay? This figure number 5, this is figure number 5, this one, and the major categories of elements that we have. What? We have metals. Metals are elements that are shiny and are good conductors. That are what? That are shiny and good conductors of heat and electric current. They are malleable. They are what? Malleable. What's the meaning of malleable? They can be hammered into a thin sheet. And also they are what? Ductile. They can be drawn into thin wires. Okay? Ductiles, they can be drawn into the thin wires. Iron has many uses in the construction industry and the car manufacturing, while copper is used for making electric wires and pieces of metal money. Okay, we have another one, number 2, the non-metal. Non-metals are elements that are dull, not shiny it means, and that are poor conductors of heat. And we have what? They are poor conductors of heat and electric currents. Okay? Solids tends to be brittle and unmalleable. In the metal, they are malleable, but in the non-metal, they are unmalleable. Few familiar objects are made of only non-metals. Neon in the lamps, this one, neon in the lamps, is a non-metal, while graphite carbon is used to the manufacture of the what? For pencil. And we have another thing, sulfur and brom. Okay, bromine. Okay, students, please You must memorize the chemical structure of the elements. Later we will, inshallah, we will study the chemical structure of the each elements. Okay. And we have the last one, metalloids. Metalloids are also called semiconductor. Please memorize the other name of the metalloids, also called what? Semiconductors. They have the properties of both metals and non-metals. It means they have properties of both metal and non-metal. And then some metalloids are shiny, some are dull, it means not shiny, and metalloids are the somewhat malleable and ductile. Sometimes malleable, sometimes ductile, and because they have properties of both of metal and non-metal, okay? And we have the examples of antimony and the boron and silicon. And please, students, memorize the example of each of the type of elements, okay? Memorize the examples. From the metal, memorize what? Memorize lead, copper, and iron. From the non-metal, memorize neon, sulfur, and bromine. Okay, and memorize also the chemical structure of each of them. Okay, and you can find the chemical structure of each of these one in the periodic table. And we have section review, which is summary. All of the time I will focus on this summary because it is the summarizing of all the things that I explained in this section. Okay, as number one, a substance in which all of the particles are alike is as a pure substance. Number two, an element is a pure substance that cannot be broken down into anything simpler by physical or chemical means. Each element has a unique set of the physical and chemical properties. Elements are classified as metal. We have three major types of the elements. They are metal, non-metal, and the metalloids, based on their what? Based on their properties. Okay, so thank you, students. Please solve these questions for me, number one and number two and number three. Okay, this is what homework for you. I will ask this question inshallah in the meeting. Okay, thank you and bye bye.